post-2020 period, we see the Minsk process losing its importance, Moscow acting the mediator role in finding a solution between Azerbaijan and Armenia, Turkey becoming the representative of the West, but which has as closer dialogue as a NATO member. What we are talking about, Turkey-Azerbaijan relations, it's one of the main axes of Turkish foreign policy. So it is hard to expect a radical shift if another government comes to power. I believe Azerbaijan is trying to put pressure on Karabakh Armenians, and via Karabakh Armenians, they want to change the position of Yerevan, because the one who is suffering at the moment is the people who are living in Arstak. In this regard, Karabakh Armenians, they have problems of accessing energy, they have accessing of food, medical resources, etc. So as they suffer, their suffering will be reflected. To begin with, we may say that after the ceasefire agreement between Azerbaijan and Armenia in 2022, Turkey became a party engaged with the conflict, because at the moment Turkey has a mission in the Karabakh region, or in the conflict region, let's say, and with Russians they are trying to observe the ongoing peace mission over there. But apart from this, for a long time Turkey has been engaging with the regional development, particularly with Azerbaijan, Georgia, for the last 3 decades. And this ceasefire agreement also paved the way for further prospects for a regional development that will be also including Armenia in. But for this purpose, I believe we need further advances, which will be paving the way of peace process and maybe a long-lasting peace agreement between Azerbaijan and Armenia. But still, even this ceasefire agreement, even the withdrawal of Armenian forces from the regions occupied in the aftermath of the Karabakh War, we see a kind of a dialogue process started between Turkey and Armenia. For this purpose, the initial step was letting or allowing the flights once again between Armenia and Turkey. Second, now non-nationals of Armenia and Turkey can pass via the land border between these two countries. So for 3 decades later, for the first time, the land border seems to be functioning. And I believe the recent diplomacy in the aftermath of the earthquake, which Armenia took an initiative and sent humanitarian assistance to Turkey, and Armenian foreign minister visited Turkey. In this regard, this also gave another momentum for the normalization of talks between Armenia and Turkey. But still, without a ceasefire, without the withdrawal from these occupied territories, I believe such a dialogue was not that viable before 2022. So in this regard, the ongoing dialogue and the post-conflict or the post-ceasefire agreement process is one of the critical phases in Turkish foreign policy towards its expectations in Southern Caucasus. To begin, I may say that Turkey-Russia relations normalized in the aftermath of 2016 coup d'etat attempt in Turkey. And in the aftermath of this normalization process, we see revitalization of economic affairs, tourism, and also energy affairs between Russia and Turkey. Turkish Stream was the concrete step. Resuming the nuclear power plant project was another step. But another important aspect, I believe, the recent collaboration between Russia and Turkey in the regional conflicts. The first and the most important thing was the Syrian war, in line with the Astana process, bringing bringing on board Iran, Turkey, Russia, and Iran attempted for the first time to collaborate in a regional conflict as regional actors. And I believe in that case, Turkey and Russia managed to develop a dialogue based on mutual understanding and mutual trust. And for this purpose, I believe, for this aspect, I believe the special dialogue between the President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and President Vladimir Putin was critical because such a dialogue was beyond the institutional dialogue that was tried to be established in the pre-2015 crisis in the when Turkey took down the Russian jets in November 2015. Before, there were attempts to establish some institutional frameworks, but what we see in the post-2016 period, the dialogue between Putin and Erdogan mattered more than this. So coming to Caucasus, I believe such a dialogue also worked in the aftermath of 2020. In this regard, for the first time, Russia and Turkey are working, Turkish and Russian militaries are working for a peace mission beyond the auspices of United Nations. So this is a critical issue. And now the parties are also discussing a 3+3 mechanism, which will be including Iran, Russia, Turkey, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Armenia to discuss further development and further stability in the region. But there are still limitations over there because the current dynamics in the region is beyond the mutual understanding between Russia and Turkey. What we see at the moment, for instance, there's an increasing tension between Iran and Azerbaijan. There is another increasing tension. There is another existing tension between Georgia and Russia. And still we are expecting to see a peace agreement between or finalizing or finding a solution to border problems between Armenia and Azerbaijan. But still, this dialogue is functioning, I believe, at least to keep the tension down. Regarding Ukraine, I believe Ukraine is another story. Rather than dealing with the South Caucasus, it's a little bit more related with the dynamics in the Black Sea. Regarding the Black Sea, for a long time, Turkey tried to keep third countries, non-regional countries, outside of the Black Sea dynamics, having concerns about change of status quo, which was established after the Montreux Agreements in 1936. Based on the Montreux Agreement in 1936, Turkey became the main controller, the main power which controls the Turkish Straits, Dardanelles, and Bosphorus. In this regard, this gives a leverage to Turkey, and by having this kind of a memorandum, it also controls exits and entrances to the Black Sea. This is a kind of a safety mechanism for Russian foreign policy, because without directly confronting the third countries, also Russia can easily pursue the mechanism being functioned by Turkey itself. So in this regard, this status quo could be managed to be maintained for about 9 decades now or so. But in the 2008 war, we see Russia started to bring back, to change the status quo and reviewing the Montreux Agreement. So in the Ukrainian war, Turkey acted really cautiously in this regard, established a balanced affair with Kiev and Moscow. And this, I suppose, helped Turkey to play a facilitator role in finding a solution to some problems, like keeping the grain corridor open, like keeping the dialogue between Kiev and Moscow over Istanbul or Ankara open, and also this helped Turkey to increase its economic affairs with Ukraine and Russia as well. Let me give you some statistics. In 2022, Turkish trade volume with Russia peaked at $68 billion. This was $31 billion in 2021. And one of the main reasons of this increase is definitely the increase in the prices of oil and gas, but also Turkish exports to Russia has peaked at almost $10 billion, which was not seen before in the history. So in this regard, I may say that Turkey also took advantage of this dynamic. But as coming to your question, who took advantage of this dialogue and whose interests undermined? I believe, while Turkey and Russia develop a closer relationship, this keeps particularly great powers access, or this limits great powers access to the region. In which terms, in the post-2020 periods, we see the Minsk process losing its importance, Moscow acting the mediator role in finding a solution between Azerbaijan and Armenia, Turkey becoming the representative of the West, but which has as closer dialogue as a NATO member with Russia. But in the aftermath of the ceasefire, the access of the United States or European countries were limited. Still, there is ongoing attempts like, finding a solution for the ongoing border conflict, which European Union Brussels played a role. But still, this process was suspended in December. So still, we may say that there are two important countries, regional countries, as Turkey and Russia plays a critical role in the region. Coming to the Black Sea, Turkey's role in the Black Sea also limited the access of the Western countries during the war between Russia and Ukraine. But still, this also limited the access of Russian Navy from the Baltic or Pacific, Navy naval bases of Russia. So in this regard, Turkey's role, I believe, can be defined as a balancing actor, and Russia brings in or takes Turkey on board maybe to balance the West's role, which also serves Moscow's interests, considering the regional dynamics. I think in the last 3 decades, Armenia could have become a part of these regional development projects. In the last 3 decades, we saw new pipeline projects being laid from Caspian to Turkish Ceyhan port or Turkish, Greek borders. Plus, we see Baku-Tbilisi-Kars railway system as constructed, which opened a new gateway in the east-west direction, which give access to a route lying from China to London. And also we see a kind of a lively trade momentum gained between Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Turkey. But in this last 3 decades, Armenia was isolated, and this is not helping a healthy regional development because as the conflict continues, this undermines the foreign direct investment in the region. This undermines the potential of regional collaboration between the regional countries. But once this conflict is left behind, I believe there is a great potential for this regional development to take momentum further. In which regards? First, at the moment we are talking about opening the land border, but this land border would be open to third parties. But what we need, I think, is a mobilization between Turkish and Armenian societies. Second, at the moment, the Turkish goods has to pass via the corridor of Georgia and then reach to Armenia. This increases the transportation cost. This increases the cost of trade between the West and Armenia. But opening the borders with Armenia and Turkey, I believe this decreasing cost will help further trade to be expanded in the region. But what is the main problem over here? I believe the 2020 agreement has some loopholes. One of them is the undefined status of the Karabakh region. What will be the status of Karabakh in the if a peace process is agreed between the parties? There are some expectations regarding the Lachin corridor and Zengezur corridor between the parties. Recently, we see that due to problems between Armenia and Azerbaijan, the tension escalated in the Lachin corridor. The Lachin corridor is, blocked by Azerbaijan, and this also undermines, food security, energy security in the Karabakh. And such a tension is not helping for a peace process to move forward. Second, coming to Zengezur corridor, in the peace agreement of 2000, in the ceasefire agreement of 2020, there was an expectation of a corridor to be opened between Azerbaijan and Nakhchivan, but this corridor could not be also established in the last 2.5 years period. So in this regard, both parties want to open some channels to the autonomous regions or to the communities which are blockaded within the landlocked formations. But due to problems due to disagreements in the borders, due to disagreements about the status of Karabakh, still we see a peace process cannot gain momentum. But another issue is going on as we see this tension is increasing. Recently, Iran's tension between Iran and Azerbaijan tension is also increasing. This is, I suppose, also undermining the stability and prospect of further development in the region. So in this regard, these two regional tensions and plus the sanctions imposed on Russia undermines regional development to continue. But the main pillar of this disagreement, particularly for Turkey-Armenia normalization process, is the Armenia-Azerbaijani conflict. We should note that Turkey did not close the border lines under the AK Party governments. It was closed in 1993, if I'm not wrong, in the 1990s, when there was another government in Turkey. Turkey did not establish these economic relations with Azerbaijan, not in the AK Party government, and modernization of Azerbaijani army also started already in the early 1990s. So what we are talking about, Turkey-Azerbaijan relations, it's one of the main axes of Turkish foreign policy. So it is hard to expect a radical shift if another government comes to power. But still, it should be noted over here. In 2008, Armenia and Turkey wanted to take steps further for a normalization. But this process also undermines due to Baku's reactions and Baku's reactions on Karabakh, on Ankara, and this process stalled. So in this regard, we need also note that not only Turkey's strategic vision, but also Azerbaijan's engagement with Turkey in the post-2000 period, particularly in economic and political terms, also somehow affect Turkish foreign policy making process. So in the upcoming period, I had chance to look at the common policy text memorandum prepared by this table of six, led by the main opposition party, CHP. In this text, these six parties, İYİ Party, DEVA, Gelecek Parti, Saadet Parti, Demokrat Party, and CHP, they noted down the normalization process started with Armenia and Turkey will go on. So in this regard, there is also an embracement of the current policy of normalization between Armenia and Turkey. And also, there is another emphasis on, looking at the normalization process in the Caucasian region. So in this regard, I believe some further courageous steps can be continued to be taken. But it is hard to ignore the fact that, Azerbaijan's position and the current regional conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan will play an important role in shaping Turkey's approach towards Armenia. What countries can change Azerbaijan's position? I believe the most important country over here is Armenia itself. Nikol Pashinyan, for a long time, showed an important political will that, he is ready to find a solution. But over here, we see that there are also ongoing protests each and every time Nikol Pashinyan wants to take steps further. Similarly, Russia can play another important role, because while Russia trying to keep the status quo or stability in the region, it also looks for a viable solution to keep the regional dynamics intact while keeping Russian dominance in the region. So in this regard, what we see, there are also limits or limitations of the West's maneuvers in the last 2.5-year period. So, but over here, Russia also has some political will to find a solution, because any escalation of tension in the region will also endanger Russian interests in the Ukrainian war, Russian interests in the Syrian conflict, and maybe even Libyan conflict, because Russia also is overwhelmed with the ongoing conflicts in its neighborhoods and in the region. So in this regard, another escalation or reignation of another regional conflict in the South Caucasus will undermine its interests. The third country, I believe, is Turkey itself. This normalization process with Armenia and Turkey also is a good incentive to show that a normalization will serve to the interests of the regional actors and plus to societies of Armenia and Turkey. But Turkey also has its own limitations, considering Armenia's, Azerbaijan's, and Russia's positions regarding the conflict itself. Still, it's hard to ignore a catalyst role of European Union and the catalyst role of, I believe, United Nations. These catalyst roles, I define them as catalyst roles because without a concrete framework prepared between Armenia and Azerbaijan and supported with Russia, it seems that an agreement is hardly viable under the leadership of Brussels or Washington for the time being. What are the risks ahead? In 2022, I believe 2020, when the ceasefire agreement was signed, if I'm not wrong, there was this 5 years for peacekeeping forces to remain in the conflict zone. So as we come closer to 2025, the status of Russian forces, the status of the ceasefire agreement will be open to discussion. So before making this issue to be discussed, I believe the parties should be also looking for an understanding to find a solution at the first level to the border disagreements, and then maybe a peace agreement for a long-lasting stability in the region. I believe Azerbaijan is trying to put pressure on Karabakh Armenians, and via Karabakh Armenians, they want to change the position of Yerevan, because the one who is suffering at the moment is the people who are living in Arstak. In this regard, Karabakh Armenians, they have problems of accessing energy, they have accessing of food, medical resources, etc. So as they suffer, their suffering will be reflected